If you're watching this video, it's because you definitely know about My Singing Monsters. But My Singing Monsters isn't the only game released in this universe of singing monsters. In today's video, I'm going to show you all the games in the My Singing Monsters universe, or all the games in the franchise. I'll cover all the main games, spin-offs, and more. I'll talk about each one, show what they're like, and discuss games that are no longer playable today. As you well know, My Singing Monsters is a massive game with a huge variety of monsters and islands to explore during gameplay. But the My Singing Monsters universe didn't start with the game we know so well. In fact, it had two predecessors before its release. The first game released in this franchise, and the one that started everything we know about My Singing Monsters, was the Thumpies game. That's right, folks, this game, released on February 17th, 2010, was the one that kicked off the entire franchise. It was a simple but interesting game where you progressed through levels with rhythm-based gameplay. You had to click on the Thumpies drums at the right time to score enough points to advance. The game featured many Thumpies, tons of them, and a huge variety that only made it to My Singing Monsters over 12 years later. The levels took place in a large tree with different scenes as you climbed higher and higher. Essentially, it was a simple rhythm game featuring the Thumpies, and it was the first game in the My Singing Monsters universe to be released. Today, it's practically impossible to find the original version to play, but if you search the internet, you might find a way to play it. Currently, there's a new version of this game, which we'll talk about later in the video. The next game I'll talk about isn't officially confirmed as part of the My Singing Monsters universe, but one of its characters appears in MSM. I'm talking about Burn the Rope, that's right. Burn the Rope was released on December 19th, 2010, and it was a super simple game where you had to burn as many ropes as possible in each level. As you progressed through the levels, you encountered insects crawling on the ropes, each reacting differently to the flame. The game was pretty much just that, a simple game that, while not officially part of My Singing Monsters, featured the Wickman who became the critter on the Earth Island. So I had to mention this game in the video since it has a small connection to My Singing Monsters. And yes, this game can still be played today if you can find it to download. The second game is also one of the two predecessors to My Singing Monsters. It's a game featuring one of the characters that appear in My Singing Monsters, Fling-a-Thing. That's right, Fling-a-Thing was the second game in this universe to be released, launching on September 30th, 2011. Fling-a-Thing is an arcade-style game where you stretch and fling creatures called things into the air to collect bubbles while managing your limited number of shots. That was essentially the goal of the game, a simple but fun game. It had a level system where you progressed through each one, unlocking new things and exploring the game's 3 worlds, one of which involved Amber. Again, it was a simple game that can still be played today if you can find it to download. In My Singing Monsters, the things appear in various decorations, and of course, the following year, in 2012, Big Blue Bubble did the best thing they've ever done in their existence. They released My Singing Monsters. That's right, folks, My Singing Monsters was the third game in this franchise and became the main one. And well, I think you all know MSM very well. Released on September 4th, 2012, My Singing Monsters is a game where you collect monsters, place them on your islands, and gradually complete your music. Even after 12 years, My Singing Monsters is still going strong, remaining one of the most played games to this day. Every week, there are new updates to the game, keeping it active. I won't go into too much detail about MSM in this video since it's the reason you're all here, so you know it very well. The next game released in this franchise is the same as the previous one, but in 2 completely different versions. I'm talking about My Singing Monsters Chinese, or as everyone knows it, Monster Choir. This game is the same My Singing Monsters we know, but Monster Choir is the Chinese and Korean version of the game. The Chinese version was released on April 14th, 2014, and the Korean version on June 8th, 2015. Both versions were not released by Big Blue Bubble, but by a partner company called Yodo One Games. In both countries, the versions had some differences but were very similar at the same time. These versions featured a new mini-game similar to Guitar Hero, which I think is really cool, an amazing idea that could exist in the original game. Of course, the HUD was completely different, with many more options than the game we know. There was a challenges tab among others that we never saw in the original game. These versions also had a VIP system where you spent real money to level up your VIP status. Another option exclusive to these versions was the gacha system, where you could spend your resources for a chance to win a monster, which could be a normal monster or even a very rare one. The main highlight of these versions was their exclusive monsters. That's right, folks. These versions had exclusive monster variants, which was the charm of these versions. Both the Chinese and Korean versions had many monsters, and some were really cool with amazing designs. Unfortunately, they'll never make it to the original game, but these monsters were definitely the biggest difference from the original game. Today, neither of these versions is available to play since the license expired in mid-2020 and the servers went offline. It's a shame because these versions were really cool and I would love to play them today. The next game released in this franchise focused on one of the most iconic monsters in My Singing Monsters, the Mammoth, with its game My Mammoth. Released on May 28, 2014. This game allowed you to have your own mammoth, care for it, play with it, and do various things with it. It was similar to My Talking Tom, but with fewer features. In the game, you had only one minigame, could feed your mammoth, to level it up, and it would dance and do some tricks. Essentially, that was the game. Today, you can still play it if you find an APK online. My Mammoth was one of the games that got a Korean version released as My Mammoth Monster. The Korean version, also released by Yoda One Games, was practically the same with only some graphical changes, making it identical to our version. And of course, Mammoth wasn't the only monster to get its own game. Pom Pom also got her own game, My Pom Pom. Released on November 13, 2014, the game was practically the same with a few changes. In My Pom Pom, there was only one minigame, different from My Mammoth, and the options were pretty much the same. The game itself was very similar, with not many new features, making it slightly inferior to My Mammoth. Like My Mammoth, My Pom Pom can still be played today. Now, one of my favorite games in this franchise, which unfortunately was discontinued and was an incredible game in my opinion, is Furcorn's Jelly Dreams. This spin-off was released on March 4th, 2015. The game features Furcorn dreaming of different eggs from various islands to hatch. The player has to pass levels with a match 3 style game. As you progress through the levels, you unlock new monsters, completing the music. This game was very similar to the famous Candy Crush with very similar gameplay, but it definitely had its charm. It also had exclusive music that was simply beautiful. You could unlock monsters known from My Singing Monsters by passing levels. The game itself had a beautiful design with various islands where the levels took place. This game was truly one of the most different ones released by BBB. Unfortunately, I couldn't play it because in 2017 the game was discontinued and is no longer playable. It's a shame because you can tell how well made this game was, but unfortunately it didn't move forward and today we're left with gameplay videos posted by players from that time. Now let's talk about the second biggest game in this franchise, which is also the second main game, Dawn of Fire. Well folks, I think Dawn of Fire also doesn't need much introduction. Released on September 8, 2015, Dawn of Fire was meant to be My Singing Monsters 2, or rather a new game in the same style as the first but with many improvements and differences. Set in the past of the monsters world, Dawn of Fire shows us what life was like for the monsters during the Golden Age when the entire continent was still connected. I won't go into too much detail about the game's lore because I want to make a video about it in the future. But yes, My Singing Monsters, Dawn of Fire shows us the past of the game we love so much. Dawn of Fire has many amazing things, like the continent itself, which is one of the most incredible islands in the game, and of course the outer islands, where monsters are teleported and remain in their adult form. Dawn of Fire is a marvelous game with incredible music, amazing graphics, and unique gameplay. Even though it's not as played as MSM or as famous, the game is still standing today. It doesn't receive many updates, but it's an incredible game, and I hope it gets more updates in the future, showing more about the monsters past. But now, the game that caused the end of Furcorn's jelly dreams, Jammer Splash, the Toe Jammers game. This game was released on May 3rd, 2016, and was practically identical to Furcorn's Jelly Dreams, but with some aspects that made it different. In the game, you follow a toe jammer through different levels as it travels through Jammerland and meets other monsters along the way. You play by popping jammer blocks in groups of 2 or more that touch each other. Yes, this game is very similar to Furcorn's Jelly Dreams, and it even seems like they were trying to make a similar game, hoping it would become very popular. With gameplay very similar to Candy Crush, it's good. In my opinion, this game has good qualities like a nice design, well done animations, and being a better game than Furcorn's Jelly Dreams. But in my opinion, it doesn't have the charm that Furcorn's Jelly Dreams had. The music, the map, the monsters, everything was better in Furcorn's Jelly Dreams. Maybe Jammer Splash had better gameplay, but I think the game didn't resonate with players either. And in 2018, it was discontinued. However, it wasn't until mid-2021 that its servers were shut down. It's a shame because this game was the reason one of the games in this franchise came to an end, and it also didn't move forward. Now, a game that isn't exactly a game but that I'll mention in this video is My Singing Monsters coloring book. Yes, a My Singing Monsters game where you color images of the monsters, and the game itself, it was something very simple but lasted for years. Yes, it lasted, but unfortunately a few weeks ago it was confirmed that the game was discontinued and only those who still have it downloaded on their devices can play it. It's a shame because even though it's a simple game, it was part of this franchise, but it also came to an end. My Singing Monsters also had its game in the form of a teaching guide. That's right. On March 17, 2018, My Singing Monsters Teaching Guide Grade 1 to 3 was released. It was an educational and interactive version of the game, costing $10 with the goal of teaching children about various aspects of music along with lesson plans. In the game, you only have the plant island and everything is free. It's something very simple, but it's interesting to see this educational version of MSM. On April 25th, 2018, one of the first paid My Singing Monsters games was released, My Singing Monsters Composer. As we know, the Composer Island is the island where you can make your own music using the monsters. In the Composer game, it's the same thing but much more enhanced with even more monsters, including the ethereals. It's a game that's not for everyone. You have to really enjoy making music to play this game. It's impressive what people create with this game. Many make real-life music, video game soundtracks, and much more. Which is why this game is still standing today. After many years without releasing anything, on March 24th, 2021, Big Blue Bubble finally released My Singing Monsters in its PC version, or My Singing Monsters Steam, which was the version of My Singing Monsters for computers. This was incredible and definitely one of the best things a BBB has ever done. Now we can play My Singing Monsters on our computers without using emulators. Of course, you can't play with your mobile account on the Steam version, but even so, many people started a new account and played from the beginning. This version initially had some differences, the first being improved graphics since the game could be heavier on PC, but today that no longer exists after an MSM update brought those graphics to mobile. Before, updates also arrived there with a slight delay, which no longer happens today. The biggest difference in this version is that you can use mods, which is amazing, but other than that, it's the same game, just now on computers. A game that isn't a virtual game but is still a My Singing Monsters game is My Singing Monsters the board game. That's right, My Singing Monsters has a board game, which is quite interesting. It was announced on April 21st, 2021, and for true My Singing Monsters fans, it's a must-have. Unfortunately, I don't have it, but I really want to get this board game someday. The game is very well made, with many interesting things, but getting one isn't easy. Now let's talk about the game with the best graphics in the entire franchise, and definitely one of the most fun to play with friends. My Singing Monsters Playground. Playground was released on November 9th, 2021 and was launched on various platforms including Steam, PlayStation and Xbox. It was one of the first games in the entire franchise not not released on mobile. The game itself has many similarities to Mario Party. In the game, you play as one of 7 monsters and have to go through a wide variety of mini games. You can play multiplayer with up to 4 people, either online or on your own machine. The game is super fun, with several mini games, each better than the last, and can be played at any time. Just buy it on your favorite platform and invite your friend to play with you. Now, a secret and exclusive game that was never released but has been played and shown to us is Furcorn's Karaoke. That's right! Furcorn's Karaoke is a multiplayer rhythm game developed by Big Blue Bubble. It was revealed at PAX West 2023 and confirmed as an exclusive for the event. It was confirmed that it won't be released to the public anywhere, but it's likely to be at the My Singing Monsters booth at future PAX events. In the game, you can play as one of 4 available monsters, and it seems to have a total of 8 songs that loop. That's pretty much the game. It's not a complete game and was made only for this in-person BBB event. It's unlikely to be released to the general public, which is a shame because it seems really fun. And the last game we'll see in this video, yes, after this there's still more, but talking about games, the last game released in this franchise is actually a remake. That's right, I'm talking about My Singing Monsters Thumpies. That's right, folks. The Thumpies game is back, but now it's a completely remade game, released on March 6th, 2024. This game is literally the same as its first version of 2024, of course, the base of the game itself. But this new version brings new graphics, much better gameplay, and of course brings the game back for us to play. In the game, we can once again go through the levels of the big 3, unlocking Thumpies according to our scores, and even earning rewards in My Singing Monsters based on our achievements in My Singing Monsters Thumpies. I was super happy to see this game back, and I hope that other abandoned games can return in the future with new remakes or even new versions of these games. I hope BBB continues to do this. Now I'm going to talk about an app that wasn't a game but was once among us. My Singing Monsters official guide, released on June 21st, 2017. This app provided information about the game's currencies, monsters, breeding combinations, decorations, and structures. It was really interesting at the time as it covered content from both My Singing Monsters and Dawn of Fire, making it a valuable resource for all players. As we saw, the app allowed us to see everything about My Singing Monsters and help the community discover breeding combinations, get tips, and learn all about the game. Plus, it was quite accessible, you just had to download and use it. It functioned like a game wiki, but unfortunately, it was updated very infrequently. Its last update was in 2018, and on February 7th, 2020, we lost yet another app as it was removed from all app stores on that date. I know that nowadays we have the game's wiki, which the community has come together to maintain with all the game's information. However, it's still sad to see that an official resource that helped so many people was abandoned. So that's it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Bye for now.